Now let's move on to the iPad Air 5th Gen or iPad Air 2022. This comes with a 10.9-inch liquid retina IPS display, the Apple M1 chip, which I was honestly surprised when they announced it in the event, 12 megapixel wide camera in the rear, and a 12 megapixel ultra wide front camera with center stage, which is a new addition. It comes with Wi-Fi or Wi-Fi plus cellular options, iPad OS 15. The colors are space gray, starlight, pink, purple and blue. The price for 64GB starts at 55,000, while the 256GB variant starts at 69,000. I really liked the pricing which they have kept for India, considering that it's lower than the price internationally. Like if you convert, usually the conversion for Apple pricing is $1 is 100 rupees. Like if they launch a product at $599, the price expected in India is 60,000, but the 64GB variant is launched at 55,000 and the 256GB is also at reasonable price of 69,000. Honestly, I feel this is the iPad Pro killer, maybe. Like if you are fine with 60 Hz. Honestly, I didn't see any difference between 60 Hz and 120 Hz. Like when I went to Gautam's house and checked his iPad Air 4. So honestly, if you only want 120 Hz, to go for the iPad Pro, but now the iPad Air is like way cheaper and you get almost the same features as the iPad Pro except a better rear camera on the iPad Pro, which you don't need, which you don't use anyways. So I think this is a better option than the iPad Pro for someone looking at an iPad in 2022.
Okay, so here's what I think about the iPad Air 5 from the perspective of an iPad Air 4 owner. So honestly, even though like I'm supposed to be biased against the iPad Air 5 because I own the iPad Air 4 and I bought it recently, and I would still want my perception of this device to be good, and honestly it's still a great package, but the iPad Air 5 is really good. I feel like to the average person, it may not seem like a huge upgrade, and which I agree. Like for Air 4 users or even Air 3 users, it's not a huge upgrade. But to the Air 5 users, this is the iPad to go for. It's honestly the whole 2020 situation again, where the iPad Air 4 was released and nobody even saw the point of buying the Pro. So we are back into that same situation. Honestly, it's really good. It's coming at the exact same price as the Air 4. That will now be 63,000 probably. I mean, it will decrease over time, but at that price you're getting an iPad bundle with the M1 processor. So now you might say, and which even I would say, is that iOS is limiting the M1 processor, and I agree. iPad OS isn't that refined when it comes to stuff where you would actually need the M1 processor. But if you look at it in terms of longevity, the M1 is so powerful that longevity is definitely guaranteed. You have to look at it in that way, which actually isn't guaranteed for the iPad Air 4 because it still sports the way weaker A14 Bionic, which I think, and it absolutely overshadows the Mini now in terms of performance. Exact same performance as the iPad Pro. The only difference is probably gonna be the 120 Hz display. Now, currently maybe the Pro is going for like around 72,000. Let me just check. iPad Pro, and I'm talking about the base variant, definitely not the 12.9-inch mini LED one. I'm just clarifying that. But it goes for 71,000. So if you're paying that price, which is probably like 10,000 almost, it's for 120 Hz and it's for Face ID and an extra camera, which honestly I don't see it's worth it. And when the iPad Air 4 price will decrease, which we know it will eventually, it's going to be honestly the best iPad you could buy because longevity is guaranteed. And like the iPad Air 4, the iPad Air 5 was like is a well balanced package, and just the M1 SoC being inside it signifies this fact even more. So personally, yeah, it isn't a huge upgrade, but just that processor being there in itself makes it a way better option for those people who are looking for a new iPad. If you already have the Air 4, if you already have the Mini, if you already have an Air 3 or an older Mini or even a base model iPad, don't upgrade until it stops working. But if you have something like an Air 2, like which I do, like secondary device, and you're looking to upgrade, then yeah, that's the one to go for. I mean, it's really good that Apple did this. I honestly didn't anticipate it. I anticipated the new iPad to just come in with, what do you say, the A15 and just be a rival to the Mini, but it's kind of surprising Apple did this. Honestly, the colors, I'm not really feeling it. The Starlight, which is like the pink, I mean, the Starlight looks bland The pink is alright, very similar to last year's. Feels a bit more dry, which honestly some people might like. The purple kind of looks horrible in my opinion. I don't know. I like the new blue though. It has like a cool vibe to it. Space gray, space gray. And why are they still offering 64 GB? Okay, it's starting at 54,900. That's really good in my opinion. I think you just go for the just have to go for the Air 5. 54,900 is a really good price for the base model Air, and I think if you're really looking for an iPad, this is the one to go for. There is no gainsaying in that. Now if I was given this situation where I was buying the Air 4 and the Air 5 was also available, would I have purchased the Air 5? No, I'd still go for the Air 4 because the price I got the Air 4 at was crazy. It was crazy. So yeah, I honestly anticipated a new Apple Pencil too, but no announcements on that. But at 54,000, if you're really willing to spend 50,000 on an iPad, this is the one to go for. I mean, do you really want to pay 20,000 for 120 hertz Face ID, and which kind of might be limiting at this time, Face ID, and two cameras? Do you really need two cameras? How many times do you actually use the back camera on the iPad? And now you get center stage too. So I think it's better if you get the iPad Fi. That's